acting to stop weapons falling into the hands of extremists. Then there is Russia. Bashar al-Assad, Syria's deposed leader, is reportedly in Moscow. But on Monday, the Kremlin refused to say where he was, adding there were no plans for a meeting between him and President Vladimir Putin. Now, for more on events in Syria, I'm joined by Aaron Zellin, a senior fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He also wrote the book on HTS called The Age of Political Jihadism. Aaron, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate your time. Firstly, what's the key thing to understand about HTS, the group that's now in control of Syria?
I think the key thing, in a short way of explaining it, is that they essentially went from being a part of the global jihadi movement from around 2011 to 2016 to a local regime from around 2016, 2017 until now. So they have an 8.5-year track record, more than double the time that they had been a part of the global jihadi movement in their most recent iteration. And in that time, they also destroyed all of the Islamic State cells in the area that they were controlling in Idlib, as well as al-Qaeda's attempt to create a new branch there also. So it's a complicated issue because even though they no longer are part of the global jihadi movement, they still ruled Idlib like an authoritarian regime since, they still are conservative Islamists.
So we've seen some optimism on the streets of Syria's capital that HTS has moved away from its jihadist past. But as you've been describing it, is it too soon to assume that?
I do think so. In the past, we've seen Jolani, the leader of the group, pivot at various points, whether it was from ISIS in 2013, al-Qaeda in 2016, beginning to build institutions, reforming their military, reaching out to minorities a couple of years ago for the first time. So it's possible that we could be seeing a new pivot, and also the fact that now not only they're in control of Idlib, which is more a conservative area of the country, versus, Aleppo, Damascus, very cosmopolitan cities. Not only they have greater percentages of minorities, but we also, there are also secular Muslims there beyond just religious Muslims. So it's definitely going to be one of the challenges for them to navigate this new scenario and how they kind of scale up what they've already done in Idlib to the entire country.
And this pivot that you talk about, moving away from IS, from al-Qaeda as well, is that key to how he's managed to sort of galvanize, if you like, the various rebel fractions to fight for one cause here?
Yes, definitely. That's part of the reason why he, disavowed and broke from al-Qaeda, is that they wanted to create a unified front against the regime. And one of the things that was hindering it was the fact that many other rebel groups felt that them being a part of al-Qaeda would hurt their ability to do this, because then they would all be under pressure from a potential, affiliation with al-Qaeda. And therefore, that's part of the story of why they did it, alongside some other internal issues. And since then, we've seen them, build a bunch of institutions related to governance over the last 7 years in Idlib, as well as reform their own military infrastructure, which created more command and control over all factions being all together instead of a bunch of disparate groups. For those that will call there, about 1,000 different insurgent groups a decade ago. And that, in part, helps explain why everything happened so quickly in the last 2 weeks now.
And do we know how he intends to lead going forward now that he's toppled the Assad regime?
Based off of precedent, it seems that he will continue to play this role from the outside of the official government, because they do have an actual prime minister for what they describe as their salvation government, the civilian arm of HTS, and that's Mohammed Bashir, who Jolani met with alongside the former Assad regime prime minister earlier today. And he'll be leading a lot of the, civilian and technocratic sides of it. But Jolani kind of has this broader role beyond just an official role, because he's the leader of everything, but he doesn't have an official position within the government.
All right, we'll be watching this space. We know you will as well. Thanks very much, Aaron. Aaron Zellin, Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy.
Thank you.